I feel like maybe Blake smelled his kindness, mistook it for weakness, and tried to take advantage and take power, so.
Wow.
Well, in the 60 Minutes piece, it really concludes with the fact that this was a smear campaign.
She can't prepare for what she doesn't know they have, and again, they have a lot.
Blake Lively is currently in a state of panic after one of her former colleagues has finally broken the silence regarding her questionable behavior. The recent 60 Minutes segment wraps up with a clear message. This is a smear campaign, and Blake is not the victim here.
With the Hollywood Reporter, his name is Peter Keffir, and he wrote that article that actually Blake Lively hated and came after and said it was really a sexist piece that he had written about her when he talked about how Justin Baldoni's faith played a big part in on set.
Her colleagues are. She's unprepared for the revelations that are about to surface, and trust me, there's a lot to uncover. Enter Peter Keffir, the Hollywood Reporter journalist who has been living rent-free in Blake's mind since 2024.
Even if Justin was too huggy or whatever the heck, or said she was sexy, none of this warrants this. And you still have to atone for what you did.
As a publicist and being a PR professional for over 20 years, I'm a huge believer of ethics.
He's the same journalist she attempted to cancel for daring to suggest that Justin Baldoni's faith influenced his direction on It Ends With Us. Blake labeled his article as sexist, claiming it unfairly portrayed her when he merely pointed out how a director's personal values can shape their work. Groundbreaking, right? Yet.
It's not like we as an audience couldn't see what was happening and what she was saying, and we didn't agree with what she was saying, and people started talking about it on social media, and I think my interview with her is such a good example.
Blake was so offended that she slapped a sexist label on it like it was a designer gown. Fast forward to the latest 60 Minutes Australia episode, where Peter makes a brief appearance, and Blake reportedly has a meltdown behind the scenes. Not because he revealed anything new, but simply because he was there.
In the 60 Minutes piece, it really concludes with the fact that this was a smear campaign. Like this guy is saying that it's impossible that it wasn't, and they didn't interview anyone who said anything otherwise. One of them was a woman, she's called Talia Spencer. She was actually working with Justin Baldoni on It Ends With Us, and she had nothing but good things to say about Justin Baldoni.
The mere sight of him sent her PR team into a frenzy, scrambling like it was the Met Gala and she had nothing to wear. Social media erupted, with Reddit threads popping up faster than Ryan Reynolds' aviation gin ads, and X, formerly Twitter, dragging Blake through the digital mud, demanding explanations for the inconsistencies in her narrative.
And the host asked her, did you ever feel uncomfortable around Justin Baldoni? And she said no.
I would say I felt more comfortable being around Justin than a lot of film directors in my experience.
An employee from the movie It Ends With Us speaks out in support of Justin Baldoni for Australia's 60 Minutes.
If Blake's story was solid, why did a 5-minute interview with a calm journalist cause such chaos? It's almost as if she's terrified of the truth. Meanwhile, Talia Spencer, a design team member from It Ends With Us, stepped forward with a powerful statement that undermined Blake's entire victim narrative.
She's willing to speak out when nobody else right now has.
Phil.
What do you make of the allegations and the complaints against him?
In my opinion, I find it very hard to believe the allegations against him.
We work with a bunch of creepos. Justin was perfectly fine. And again, this is like all circumstantial stuff, right? Like, just to say someone felt fine didn't mean something else didn't happen. But it doesn't hurt Justin's case. It doesn't hurt his PR.
Talia said she felt more comfortable around Justin than many directors she's worked with. A line that sent Blake's PR team into a tailspin. Talia didn't stop there. She accused Blake of trying to take control of the film and derailing its original purpose. This was a bold move, especially coming from someone who isn't even part of the main cast.
They showed a lot of Blake Lively's evidence, but they showed nothing from Justin Baldoni's side. It was just like Blake Lively accused him of this and that and showed the text messages that was in the New York Times.
Her words carried more weight than anything Blake has said through her publicist. Talia's comments went viral, racking up over 3 million views on TikTok in just 36 hours, proving that the internet is not on Blake's side.
As TMZ is now reporting, of course witnesses are staying anonymous. They're terrified of threats and bullying. Now this smells like Blake's PR team trying to spin why they're not coming forward. There's a lot of comments that she puts in here that you're just like, why would you want to take over someone's movie? The outfits in this end are so out of touch. No, we don't want to watch bullies like Blake.
As Blake spiraled, Peter Keffir remained unfazed, calmly reiterating the facts he had already published. The backlash against Blake intensified, with hashtags like #BlakeExposed and #Justice for Justin trending. The 60 Minutes segment, which was supposed to clear Blake's name, ended up being labeled a one-sided propaganda piece.
We always want our work to have a meaningful impact, and a lot of us in film do it because we care, and to see it be overtaken by this was definitely a little bit sad.
This is a saga that's not ending anytime soon.
Viewers noticed the lack of balance, and the segment only reignited the controversy. The episode showcased Blake's curated texts and voice notes, but included no response from Justin Baldoni. It felt more like a PR infomercial than a documentary.
It was just because of the way he is culturally with his religion. I want to go through some of these pieces because, hear me out, here it is. So, from the outset, the feud's been framed as the newest chapter in Hollywood's ongoing fight for gender equality. So, the way I take this is, well, if those texts weren't real or they were edited, it wasn't our fault, they were Jones' work.
The expert interviewed even hinted that if Blake's claims were legitimate, why was only one side allowed to speak? This raised serious questions about the integrity of the narrative being presented. The segment also featured a digital warfare expert who suggested that Blake's campaign had the hallmarks of a smear job.
I feel like maybe Blake smelled his kindness, mistook it for weakness, and tried to take advantage and take power, so.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you believe Blake Lively wrestled control of the film?
I think she tried to, yes.
Basically concluded that there was a PR smear campaign. They showed a lot of Blake Lively's evidence, but they showed nothing from Justin Baldoni's side.
With bot-generated posts amplifying hate against Justin. It's a classic PR move. Create outrage that feels organic enough to sway public opinion. Blake's entire strategy seemed less like a defense and more like a high-budget manipulation scheme.
Even this one guy, the publicist that was interviewed, he said something that I thought was definitely aimed at Blake Lively, but then they edited it so it looked like it was aimed at Justin Baldoni. I don't know what you think about this.
When you are faced with a crisis, if you did it or anything remotely to it, the biggest thing you can do and the most accepting thing in the court of public opinion is to own up to it.
As the drama unfolded, it became clear that Blake had hijacked a film meant to raise awareness about domestic abuse and turned it into a self-serving PR campaign. Talia confirmed that Blake altered the film's tone and narrative, prioritizing her own image over the original message. Staff members felt silenced, fearing backlash for supporting Justin.
And they just showed that with no context. They didn't explain what it was. They didn't explain anything about the email she had sent him with, I can call my dragons, whatever. That was just completely left out of this documentary, this segment.
In a shocking twist, Blake's legal team allegedly used a copyright lawsuit involving her husband, Ryan Reynolds, to obtain private communications that could bolster her narrative. This convoluted legal maneuvering raised eyebrows and suggested a level of manipulation that's hard to ignore.
It's easy to do that. So he said that it probably started with bots saying horrible things about Blake Lively, and then it got picked up and it spread organically.
Now that's the whole goal of this, is to start off with something that's artificial and hopefully it grows to be organic.
The infamous Jones Works subpoena wasn't even part of Blake's original legal arsenal. It allegedly snuck in through a completely unrelated copyright lawsuit involving Ryan and his brand, Aviation Gin. This raises serious questions about the ethics of her legal strategy. As Hollywood watches this saga unfold, insiders are wary of Blake's involvement in future projects. Once known for her talent, she's now seen as someone who hijacks narratives for personal gain.
I don't know why bots would start saying negative things about her, because all of us could see the way she was behaving on the press tour and blah, blah, blah.
Blake Lively, much more different culturally, more about the power and thinking that this is about the feminist Me Too movement. And how dare you do this?
Talia's bravery in speaking out has earned her respect, while Blake's carefully curated image is crumbling under the weight of scrutiny. The question now isn't whether Blake will bounce back, but what else she might be hiding. The Blake Lively show has officially gone off script, and the fallout is just beginning. The 60-minute segment was supposed to be a golden opportunity for Blake to set the record straight, but instead, it turned into a PR disaster. The producers aimed to present a balanced view, yet they ended up amplifying the very narrative they sought to counter.
You definitely believe that there was a smear campaign and that Justin Baldoni went after her and that his publicist made all of this bad press happen. So yeah, completely biased like all the other documentaries we've seen so far.
The editing choices made it seem as though Blake was the only voice in the room, while Justin's side was conspicuously absent. This lack of representation raised eyebrows and led to accusations of biased journalism.
There's a lot of comments that she puts in here that you're just like, why would you want to take over someone's movie? The outfits in this end are so out of touch. No, we don't want to watch bullies like Blake.
They were just interviewing other people who supported Blake Lively's claims. They also showed or aired a part of Justin Baldoni's voice memo, the one that leaked when he called her at 2 a.m. in the morning.
Viewers began to question the integrity of the entire segment, with many feeling that it was less about uncovering the truth and more about protecting Blake's image. As the backlash grew, social media became a battleground. Users dissected every moment of the segment, pointing out inconsistencies and calling out the apparent manipulation. The hashtags #BlakeExposed and #Justice for Justin gained traction, reflecting a shift in public sentiment. People began to rally around Justin, seeing him as the underdog in this unfolding drama. The narrative that Blake had carefully crafted was unraveling, and the internet was not letting her off the hook.
Jones' work produced the communications to Miss Lively in a connection with a lawful subpoena, and the documents included within this complaint are attached in the format in which they were produced subject to the subpoena. She has understood the produced documents and communications to have been lawfully obtained. That's how she understood it. They were lawfully obtained, maintained, and produced by Jones' work.
Talia Spencer's comments resonated deeply with audiences. Her assertion that she felt more comfortable around Justin than many directors she had worked with contradicted Blake's portrayal of him as a problematic figure. This revelation not only undermined Blake's narrative, but also positioned Talia as a credible voice in the conversation.
Ryan Reynolds is still following Marilyn Starclough. Why would you follow somebody that sues you for a copyright issue? Well, I guess only if it was by accident, but also maybe you follow them because they were in on the conspiracy to use that lawsuit. I guess only if it was by accident, but also maybe you follow them because they were in on the conspiracy to use that lawsuit as a way to get a hold of the subpoena. But other people...
Her willingness to speak out, despite the potential repercussions, showcased a level of integrity that many felt was lacking in Blake's approach. The fallout from the 60 Minutes segment extended beyond social media. Industry insiders began to take notice, with casting directors reportedly wary of Blake's involvement in future projects. The fear was palpable. Would she attempt to hijack another film, turning it into a PR campaign at the expense of the story? The Hollywood landscape is unforgiving, and once an actor is labeled as difficult or controlling, it can significantly impact their career prospects. Meanwhile, the legal implications of Blake's actions continued to unfold.
Justin Baldoni's subreddit to find out, because it feels above my pay grade. But essentially, it's just a whole bunch of lawyers doing their lawyer things, trying to be like, how the heck is there a subpoena? What would they have done to get it? And and again, will this be information that comes out? Because if the information does come out, I think it could go to illustrate the motivations of people behind it, how they stumbled upon all of this information that led to one of the biggest pop culture cases in the world.
The use of a copyright lawsuit involving Ryan Reynolds to obtain private communications raised ethical questions. Legal experts began to scrutinize the tactics employed by Blake's team, suggesting that they may have crossed a line in their pursuit of a favorable narrative. The revelation that they allegedly leveraged a separate case to bolster their claims only added fuel to the fire.
Any suggestion Baldoni behaved poorly couldn't be further from the man she knows and respects.
How did you first find out that you were going to be working on It Ends With Us?
I got an email from Justin, and then he called me out of nowhere and pitched to me the vision of the film.
As the saga continued, it became clear that Blake's carefully curated image was cracking under the pressure. The internet's response was swift and unforgiving, with many users calling out her attempts to manipulate the narrative. The once beloved actress was now facing a reckoning, and the fallout from her actions was far-reaching. In the midst of this chaos, Peter Keffir remained a steady presence. His calm demeanor and unwavering commitment to the truth stood in stark contrast to Blake's frantic attempts at damage control. As he reiterated the facts he had previously published, it became evident that he was not backing down. The public's perception of Blake was shifting, and Peter's role in this narrative was becoming increasingly significant. The question of accountability loomed large. Would Blake take responsibility for her actions? Or would she continue to deflect and manipulate the narrative? The public was watching closely, eager to see how this drama would unfold. The stakes were high, and the consequences of her choices were becoming more apparent by the day. As the dust settled, it was clear that the Blake Lively saga was far from over. The intersection of celebrity, media, and public perception had created a complex web of intrigue, and the fallout from this PR nightmare would likely reverberate for years to come. The narrative was shifting, and with each passing day, it became increasingly difficult for Blake to maintain her grip on the story. The world was waiting to see what would happen next in this unfolding drama, and one thing was certain: the truth would eventually come to light.